latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
And welcome into a new episode of Rock the Rink, joined by Chris Kirk, Justin Forth, and the head coach of the men's D1 team, wrapping up this season. Kirk, Andy. Kirk, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me in, guys.
Yeah, so Kirk, let's talk a little bit about this past year. Obviously, I know the goal hopefully lead to the national championship, and we're keeping it just hockey right now. But team finished another year, top 10 in the country, had a lot of good wins, and kind of showcased again Liberty being one of the top programs in the ACHA.
Yeah, overall, very successful year. You know, we hit a bit of a rough patch there when Hunter went down and had to readjust. Nick Bernstein came in and did a great job for us. As we went on through the season, though, I really liked the way that we progressed on through the end of the first semester and into the second semester. I thought we played really well going down the stretch.
Yeah, and let's talk a little about how you guys progressed throughout the season. Took some time for the team to kind of find their way, but they really did, and this group really gelled together, and kind of key reason for that probably is because of the leadership of your senior class that's now heading out. Can you talk a little bit about those guys? Because obviously they were big in the culture that was created for Liberty.
Yeah, incredible group of guys who came into our program and really, I thought, really took us from being kind of a 10 through 15 team to put us, you know, kind of that 5 through 10 every year, where we're right there knocking on the door. Had obviously in Bartel's first year and Hunter and Gammer's first year, you know, we had that great run prior to COVID. And then after that, we had some great runs with that group of guys. And really, again, it's not only what they did on the ice, but what they did off the ice to continue to build the legacy and their legacy and the legacy of our program.
It's such a good point. As you said that, like, I'm just reminiscing on the guys that are no longer with us, graduating and moving on, of what solid, wonderful character young men that we had here. And yeah, I'm definitely just going to miss those guys for the spiritual aspect that they brought, just, you know, the competitiveness on the ice and their gameplay, but just a special group of young men, young individuals that really made an impact off the ice, I felt.
Yeah, huge impact. And I think about a guy like Nate Albers. He wasn't here for as many years as Gammer and Verostic and Bartel, but huge impact. DJ Schwenke, guys like that who really had huge impacts on our team. Jason Foltz, Cam Ottenbright, who transferred into Liberty, and all these guys who were big parts of what we were doing and made and continued to want and had the desire to make our program even better than it was when they came in.
Yeah, and even as we're mentioning all this, it's just kind of flashbacks of how effective they must have been overseas in Finland on mission. Just that group of guys who love Jesus. And when we go over there, obviously, you know, the hockey is an aspect of it, but just the character of who they are, what they represent, really speaks to a group of people aside from their gameplay. So yeah, definitely a big loss as far as that goes.
That's the exciting part, to see them over in that atmosphere in Finland, and to see all the fruits of our labor, fruits of how God's working in their life. You know, how they've grown, and now it's not about them, but it's about the legacy they're going to leave for the other guys. I mean, it's really cool to see. I think even just, you know, a byproduct of that is our team GPA. Yeah, our team GPA was a 3.6. Which is incredible, and it just shows the commitment that they had to all the aspects that make Liberty hockey so special.
We don't have to bring up the name, but I remember we had an equipment manager for like a semester, and his GPA was so bad he kept bringing us down. Like, hey, buddy, I'm sorry, like we just can't do it. You're killing us, and we had to let him go.
He was promoted.
Oh,
he was promoted.
Yeah, he was just, hey, you're doing so well. We're gonna move you on to this position. Oh, that's so funny.
I'll speak from a fan's point of view, but that group of guys you were talking about, like stepping back and putting yourself in the perspective of watching them on the ice and how they carry themselves, I think they represent Liberty hockey extremely well, and they're fun to watch. I mean, Hunter Verostic. Are you kidding me? Like, huge hole, I think, in the lineup. But even just like to watch him play and do what he does at that level, it's pretty special. So
yeah, and to watch them compete in practice was just as fun. To watch the level of intensity, then the level of commitment that they had outside of the games. We're talking about the practice, and obviously Coach Kirk can weigh in on his side of it. But it's just an incredible group of guys who came to work every day.
It's great.
And speaking of an incredible group of guys, you could argue you're bringing in another incredible group of guys. Pretty big class, one of your biggest. But talk a little about this, your thoughts on this upcoming recruit class, because obviously you like them. But what is the element that you feel like they bring to the table that is going to help keep Liberty on that trajectory of not only a top 10 program, but hopefully someday national title?
Yeah, and I think as you look at the teams, I think you have to step back and look at the teams who are successful, whether it's in ACHA Division I, NCAA Division I. You look at what's going on in the NHL playoffs and all that stuff. It's the teams who can have a depth of scoring. It's the teams who play and compete lines 1 through 4. There's for us, having a group of guys who come in where the skill level from your top forward to your bottom forward isn't a great level. It's very, very close in skill level. From your first defenseman to your second defenseman to your eighth defenseman, all the way through, you've got guys who can play and play effectively. And really, I really feel like that's going to be a real exciting thing we're going to see in this group of guys. There's a lot of guys who can play interchange in different spots, a lot of depth of scoring, but they all want to compete. And that's what we love about this group. They all want to compete, and I think I don't think it's no mistake Sam Feemster's our captain. He's going to bring that from day one. And Sam, along with Truitt and Jacob Calendike, they're going to be an excellent group of leaders to lead this new group of Flames that we have coming in.
Talking about this group going back, there's been a lot of comparisons going back to another class that was pretty instrumental in helping Liberty start to rise in that top 10 finishing with that class that graduated in 2020 with had Quinn and Brock and Garrett and Shaden, a lot of different guys that a lot of Liberty fans got to know. Does this class remind you of them a little bit?
Yeah, the depth sure does. And I think of guys like Josh Hamilton and Cole Gammer and Boshinski, and I think of Ryan Cox and Victor Blomberg, guys who all wanted to compete. And when you see these guys come in, yeah, sure, there are some similarities in that aspect. I like the fact that we're bringing in a big group of guys up front. I think it's going to give us some really interesting practices over the first few weeks to really decide, what we've really got. And then I think really over the first 8 games, I believe those first 8 games, where we play the 2 at home, and then we go play in at Pitt, and then we come home, play Delaware, and then we go play Adrian. You're really going to get a really good idea in those first 8 games because of the variety of games you're going to be playing, some at home, some away. And then obviously the last weekend against Adrian on the road at Adrian. You're really going to find out what we've got inside that locker room.
And as we're talking this recruiting class, we obviously had Brett on the podcast, talked about him, but from your perspective, when you're bringing in this many players, how instrumental is a Brett to make those initial contacts or to get them organized as they're coming here? Give him a little praise. Talk about Brett for a moment here.
Well, Brett's an unbelievable guy who's passionate about our program. Mm-hmm. And Brett and I meet once a week to go over all the recruits with the other coaches. But really, it's daily and sometimes, midnight and 1 a.m. we're texting back and forth about games that went on and players that we're seeing out there. But Brett's done a great job of understanding the culture that we want to have here at Liberty. Mm-hmm. The type of players we want to have, the quality of players we want to have, and the quality of families that we want to bring into our program, and really has done a really nice job of trying to find that blend of player, that player who fits the mission and the vision of what we're looking to do here at Liberty.
and I'm kind of taking this off topic, so rein us back in here, Pat and Justin, if we need to. But I'm getting to the rink every day for our men's workout, so I'm here 7:45 to 8:15, and every single day, John Simba's here. Talk a bit about that guy and just like the impact that he has of just like, dude, summer, what are you just here grinding for? Like, there's no laundry to be done. There's no skates to be sharpened, but that guy just loves it, right? When we have a Brett, we have a Simba, we have all these support staff who are just so bought in. How does that help impact the program, even from a perspective of bringing recruits in where you know, like, okay, all right, is the locker room clean? All right, are they going to be able to get everything they need? Talk about those guys.
Well, John Simba, I believe his story kind of gives you the best description of John Simba. He came here as an intern for a stats program, and he was up in the stands with another guy, Ben Barnett, great guy. And him and Ben one day started coming down after practice and moving water bottles, and so I went up to Dr. Chung and I said, "Hey, are they equipment guys?" And like, no. And the more and more that they were around us, the more and more they just jumped in and got involved. So much so that when the opening came for the equipment manager, John Simba had already been doing most of the stuff anyway. So but at the heart of John Simba is the heart of who he is. He's just a super kind guy who will do whatever it takes to win. And so you see him here when the lights aren't on, and you see him around our guys, and you see him want to be at the heart of what our program's all about. And that's, training champions for Christ, but also loving on our players and trying to give them the best environment to succeed.
Yeah. No, he just does such a good job every day. I'm just like, man, this guy is still here. Like, just still grinding. It's incredible. I love it.
Yeah. It's a good thing when you got good quality people really on the back end and behind the scenes helping things out. So let's talk a little about also expanding this a little bit to all 5 teams, because this year was a very successful year across the board. And I remember almost a decade ago when you made the ambition of like, yep, we're going to have 5 teams here eventually across the board. Like, talk a little about now coming to fruition, all 5 teams making nationals and then just having have built their own brand, so to speak, in their respective divisions.
That's a great question.
Well, it's been fun to see over the years, right? As as you've seen the success of the Division I teams happen, and then the Division II teams start to have success, and now on the men's side with the Division III team starting to have success, you really realize that it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes a lot of quality people, and you always look to the coach, right? Like, I was just thinking about, your question about John Simba. You always look and say, oh, well, the coaches, man, there's so many fantastic people other than the coach, right? The assistant coaches, the athletic trainers, the sports performance people, the guys who are doing laundry, the
Strength coaches.
He's sports performance now. He used to be strength coach, yeah.
But also Chris Kirk.
It's that's a great one. But the social media people. There's just so many great people behind what we're doing, and I think we talk about social media and things like that. That's been one of our driving forces to putting Liberty hockey out there, to seeing for people to kind of get an idea of what Liberty is all about, what our hockey program is all about, but kind of behind the scenes look at what Liberty University is all about. And I believe that's been one of our big drivers, along with our summer camps and other things that we've been doing like that, to bring down quality people who are looking at Liberty University and to have them really see if this is something that they want to do.
Such a great point of just when you truly think about from your perspective, right? You've been here a decent amount of years. What season upcoming are you going to be coaching here, Kirk?
25.
Season 25. So yeah,
I feel like I'm 25 years old. Actually,
oh, hey,
but,
let me tell you, you look it. Yeah,
I don't know, maybe 26.
Yeah. So when you think, okay, for 25 years to have that vision, as Pat kind of cast it, of all right, we're going to have 5 hockey teams here, to have a year where all 5 made nationals. It's so interesting to reflect back on all the small little things that were just pillars and pillars and pillars. And you just mentioned your team GPA, even like our academic team, right? Where
Huge.
if they aren't keeping up to date on team GPAs, or hey, we need to intervene with this person, one or two key players from all 5 of our teams, if they miss due to academics, then the team isn't successful and they don't win, right? It's truly, as you commented on, such a team departmental wide success to have all the successes we just had. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Well, and I think the big part, we always talk about the mission, but the vision is to have students come here and grow in their faith, right? Set a strong foundation for the rest of their life, like succeed academically with the highest GPA they can, so they can go out and have a great career when they get out there, right? We want them to have personal growth, right? We want them to develop as a person here, right? Liberty does a great job of setting the environment, but we want to have environment plus the resources around them to have significant personal growth. And then we want them to succeed in hockey, right? We want them to take all those lessons, all those things that they've gone through to get to this point, come here, have them work hard, have fun, and enjoy their 4 years here, right? We want this to be an impactful opportunity for them to come here. And then I think about things like the missions trips, right?
Yep.
That's been such a huge thing that when Jeff came here in 2005, it was one of the things he brought in. To be quite honest with you, when he first told me, it scared me, thinking, we got to raise $80,000 for teams to go on a missions trip. Like, that's a big number. And now, just to see the Lord provide as we've gone to Latvia, Russia, China, Sweden, Finland, twice with the men's team, once with the women's team, it's been exciting to see how God's worked in and through, not only, to your point earlier, Pat, the 5 teams making nationals, but also seeing all the teams grow and develop as we've gone along.
Oh, you're firing me up. You're selling me. I'm like, all right, let's get the season going again.
That's all right. Yeah, let's talk about, I know we briefly touched about it when Kirk asked about Finland and going over there and seeing guys transform, and the senior class that just graduated gone twice to Finland. But talk a little about just so you see the impact of consistently, not just with hockey, but all the other sports, right? Using their sport as a platform, and then it not only impacts others, but impacts them too, right? Mm-hmm. Multiple guys got saved this year from across all the teams, got baptized, not just from hockey, but within the club sport department.
Yeah, that's the exciting part. And, we forgot to mention Reese and the holistic development department that we've got here, and what they're doing, and how they've continued to develop not only a holistic development and a holistic approach with the coaches, now with student leadership, but they got about 80 student leaders off our 40 plus club sports teams who they meet with on a regular basis and work with them to then impact their team. I was in a meeting yesterday and we were talking about other missions trips, not only globally, but as we go out on the road. And what we're trying to get our coaches to think about now is, as we go out in the road, for example, next year to Pittsburgh and Niagara and different spots like that, how can we maybe do a service project? Or, the one in Buffalo and is, Jake Hannon, how can we come alongside a guy like Jake Hannon and work with some of the inner city ministries for an afternoon or an evening as a team, and again, continue to develop them from a holistic perspective as well.
Yeah, I think the cool thing that I took from this year too, watching social media accounts and hearing about that, is the baptisms that took place, whether it was your team over there or like a lot of the women's D2 teams here in a pool. I love the baptism, the public profession of faith, and I think that's awesome and amazing for Liberty to be on the forefront of that, for these young men and women to be brave enough to say hey, I'm all in for Christ, and just be able to show that at that public level, I think is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's funny because we have a really complex mission statement, and in club sports, and I'm actually been going back with them to try and change it. And what I want to change it back to is train champions for Christ in our club sports department, right? Because I think at the end of the day, when things are not going right, or you're having some difficulties in a certain situation, as a staff member, as a student athlete, as people involved here at Liberty University, you got to go back to what's the heart of the mission. The heart of the mission is train champions for Christ. And yeah, you might have lost 2 games on Friday and Saturday, and the games you wanted to win, but keep your focus on where your focus needs to be. And if you do that, it's not only going to impact GPA. It's not only going to impact these other areas, but it's going to impact the overall program in such a positive way. It's going to be unbelievable, and it's going to allow new student athletes to come here who want to be a part of something special.
I don't know how I've just dropped the ball all these years. How have I not had a T-shirt made with like training Champions for Christ? Right? Like,
New T-shirt idea.
yeah, like I say it all the time, but like let me slap that on the back. Like
That's right.
it makes sense, and yeah, I'm in the weight room there training them. Yeah, I'll have to hit up Ava Pro Shop. Here we go.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
For sports performance? Is that
Yeah,
what it
I'll
is?
say sports performance on the front and training.
Not weightlifting coach.
Yeah, not just weight room guy.
That's right. Kirk, is it now? Obviously, I feel like we've expanded past the hockey world, but like you just touched on it. You're about to enter your 25th season, which is crazy to think. Now you're kind of also, though, after growing club sports, growing all the hockey team, other coaches have been reaching out. I remember Coach Hogan in Maryville, they have 5 programs now, and teams such as NC State's head coach and all these other teams have reached out. Is it weird now that you're like in that mentorship role, even though like you don't look like someone that's in their mentorship role, but yeah, you are there.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah.
Brian Davidson.
That's
he
right.
looks like he's in the mentor.
But
He's
like
in the mentoring
but
era.
for, like because I remember having a conversation with you over lunch, and you told me you're almost 50. I was like, you are? And, like I didn't realize that because you don't look like it. But yeah, you're
Got a
in that-
couple of years, but I'm getting close.
That's right. But you're in that role now for all the other young coaches coming up. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to think about that because I don't even know if I think that in my head, right? I still think, I'm in my 30s probably. I think one of the most rewarding things that I ever get to do is to mentor people, whether it's student athletes, employees, other coaches, and sometimes you stumble into it without even, without even saying, "Hey, can I be your? Can I mentor you, or can you mentor me?" I don't think it happens that way. It happens organically, and some of the coaches that I have had great relationships with, and I still do to this day, whether they're older or younger, I think it's just started out as a friendship and has morphed into a great mentorship that we've had. There's a lot of coaches who I talk to on a regular basis and really try and pick their brains. I've just learned that you can learn from people who are new in coaching. You can learn from people who are farther down the coaching years of experience than you are. And so I enjoy learning. And at the end of the day, I want to learn from them and push and motivate myself to do things better here at Liberty.
Yeah, and that's so true because I feel like every coach that you have a good relationship, that has happened organically. And when we have like a call talking to them leading into the weekend series, they're like, yeah, Kirk's been so great helping us out. Because we just pick his brain because we're trying to grow our own hockey program and trying to have more hockey teams as well. But yeah, like obviously talk a little about though, I guess the mission still too, because we see it with all the teams now praying, even after a loss and inviting the other teams in to come pray with us as well. Talk a little about like just professing your faith whether we win or lose.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story. I met Rick Randazzo from FCA back in 2001, I believe, at the coaches convention. I was reading the book Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren at the pool, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, are you a Christian?" I thought, well, that's kind of a weird thing to come up and ask someone at the pool. And I said, "Yeah, I am." And we started talking, and that's developed a friendship of over 22 years. FCA hockey is actually relocating to Lynchburg in August, so we're super excited about that. It'll be a wonderful resource for Liberty and for our student athletes, and just bringing people to Lynchburg, Virginia. But one of the things he did, and I don't even know how many years ago it was, but he challenged me about that, and I don't even know if he remembers kind of challenging me about it. But it was such a powerful thing when we did it, because I think what it does, it gives our guys the platform then to use their faith along with their sport to make an impact in the lives of others. It also gives them a little more sense of accountability, like, hey, we know we're going to ask this team to pray with us after the game. How am I going to play? How am I going to perform? What am I going to do out here to want to set the environment for them to want to come and pray with us? And I think over the years, as we've continued to continue to get better at what we're doing, as far as the way we're playing and all that stuff, teams are more receptive to coming and praying with us after the game. And there's a guy here, Cole Burak, a few years ago, and he came and said, goalie for us, a great guy, came and said, hey, what if we gave baskets of snacks to the other team after the game when they go home on the road trip? It's like, when I played hockey, it was always something when I got on the bus, I was always bored. And so we kind of morphed that idea and then started to put a Bible in there. And now we've got an FCA hockey Bible and some snacks in there. And we just put outside their locker room and just say to the teams, hey, if you guys, if you guys want to take just the snacks home and leave the Bibles, that's fine. If you want to take the snacks and the Bibles home, that's great. But I tell our guys all the time, we'll never know the impact that's going to have until we get to heaven, right? It might be, hey, 3 guys took a Bible home and transformed their life, then transformed their marriage, then transformed their kids' life after it. So just little things like that. And I think it's really neat for our guys to be a part of that, right? Just as someone's challenged me, now maybe as a coaching staff, we can challenge our guys, hey, here's the reasons why we do this, right? So, I also think that we want to do it in a way that the other team is receptive towards taking it. Like, we're not going to, if you want to take it, take it, so yeah, it's been something that we've done the last maybe 5-6 years, and it's been really good.
Yeah, I'll comment on like the women's side of that too, because for years when I coached, we didn't pray after our games, and it was just kind of like we just didn't do it. But when we implemented that a few years ago, we would even see like the demeanor change of the girls and like the discipline throughout the game, the comments that are made after the whistle, like it just became much more professional and much more about Christ, because it's kind of like, if we want them to come and pray with us, like you can't call them that certain name. You know what I mean? And so I think it even challenged us as coaches, the way we interact, but even more so the girls and how they carry themselves and how they compete at that intense level, but remembering that like it's just a game and that like the mission is to win champions for Christ.
And I always say to our guys, earn the right to have them pray with us after the game, right? Earn that right by the way that you compete and not only the way you compete, but how you compete.
So, Kirk, as we're starting to reach the end of our time with you here, as you've mentioned, and we've definitely brought up your age, entering your 25th season here, incredible. When you look back, first thoughts come to your head. Some of the favorite road trips you've been on, or just destinations, and some maybe you don't have to go into too much detail of some of the ones you're like, oh man, what a stinker that one was. But I know for me, like I could think,
wow, what a stinker.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed going out to Arizona with the girls, going out to UNLV with the men. The UNLV trip, as I say all the time, was the best of times and the worst of times. Everyone was sick. It was just such a grind, but I mean, the games out there were awesome. So what comes to mind for you, right? Like, it's a lot of hockey, a lot of places you've been, a lot of cities, a lot of rinks, a lot of hotels. What's like, man, this one was special?
Oh, I think the Arizona trips are. I remember one time we went out there to play their NCAA Division I team. That was a great trip out there. We've been out to Tucson a bunch playing the University of Arizona. Those are all great trips out there. I was laughing when you were saying one of the worst, because we've been out there and had good experiences. But if you talk to Dr. Chung, he would say probably Oklahoma. We stayed in the Baymont Inn. And I don't think the Baymont Inn would be the standard that we go to now. It was. I think Coach Chung told me he had to sleep with all his clothes on in the room, because he was afraid. He was afraid to get in the to get under the cover. So
I think that's pretty standard for Coach Chung.
brings his own sleeping bag.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was do you know what? I love the road trips because it allows us to spend time with our guys, and wherever we go, we always seem to have a lot of fun doing it, and always seem to to make it a great experience for the guys.
Yeah. No, it's it definitely is just a different experience getting be on the road with the boys, because I remember we were in North Dakota and the staff foolishly left out it was just like some breakfast pastry. I can't remember what it was. Scones. They left like a bunch of scones out, and they just like annihilated them. Then they put them out again the next day, dummied them. And then the third day, they were gone. Like they're like, hey, no, we got to take them away. yeah, just little things like that when you're with the team is just so different, so fun.
I do remember us going to NYU one time. We got caught up in a snowstorm.
Oh, okay.
And when we got up there, I think we got in at maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, and at 6 a.m. they decided to jackhammer above us.
Oh, yeah.
Which wasn't pleasant for a lot of the guys. I didn't mind getting up a little earlier, but some of our guys were
a little rattled, eh?
Pretty rattled about that one. Those trips up there actually were. We would stay 6 miles from the rink at NYU there in Chelsea Piers, and it would be a half hour to an hour ride.
Crazy, right?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's why I don't live in New Jersey anymore. No way. I'm not going back.
Well, Kirk, thanks again for sitting down with us and, kind of closing us out on this past season of Liberty Hockey, and we can't wait till next year.
Yeah, thanks. And here's the thing. I would be remiss if I didn't thank you guys. This has been a wonderful idea. I believe it was you and Rhett. You and Rhett usually come up with the great ideas, Pat. And we usually you guys, I feel like I always kind of drop a bomb on you like, hey, this would be a good idea. And then you guys kind of run with it and make it what it is today. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing. And it's been such a wonderful thing, not only for the men's team, but for all the hockey teams to have this going. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Always good to have the handyman himself join us on the pod. So, guys, as we close out this last pod of the season, got to be very excited with all the teams heading into next year. We'll start off the top again since we just had the head coach of men's D1. But, really excited to see what this new look men's D1 team is going to do next year.
For sure. It's exciting when you kind of mentioned there of years ago we brought in a big recruiting class and then what they were able to do for us. And I think when you kind of come in and you have like your group and you're just showing up and going to war every single day, I think that's pretty special. And having this large of a group where some guys will have, they're transferring in a little bit more experience, it's going to be a lot of fun. Combine that with our wily veterans that we have. And just, our stability we've established as one of the top teams throughout the last couple of years. I think the culture will continue. The great play will continue. Just ready for another good year.
Yeah, I think it's fun to hear from you guys, and we think about it as like from a coaching perspective, and like you're in depth with the sports performance side of things.
You better get there right.
Sports performance. But I love looking at it as a fan. And like just how excited I am / people are that we get 8 new guys coming in. Like I cannot wait to see what kind of product they put on the ice this year.
Yeah. And since 4th you just ended, we'll go back to your former team, the Lady Flames, bringing in about 10 skaters, a couple transfers as well, and definitely probably don't want to say it, but revenge tour is probably loading for the ladies.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around a little bit, and I watched some of those girls when they were here, and obviously talked to Coach Lowe's. It must. The logjam for COVID must be over because like the men's team last year only brought in a couple. The women's team only brought in a couple as well, but now it's like, okay, here are the floodgates. Here's 8. But yeah, very exciting that they're bringing in 8 to 10. Who knows, talented young women to go for some revenge tour, like you said.
Yeah, it's such a good point too. Of like, all right, men are gonna have a big class, the women are gonna have a big class. I believe men's D2 is gonna have a big class.
Yeah.
Men's D3, I think only like Rena won't. But when we think too, like they were shut down for COVID for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. Like they really hit the pause button at the women's D2 level. So yeah, it must all be over, and we're going to have a lot of new look teams, so to speak. So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
Just
And
kind of see who emerges from all that.
yeah, sorry. But women's D2 for Rena's team, like you just touched on, I think she's nicely at a point where she can pick and choose.
Yes.
Because she's got limited numbers due to her like different budgetary restraints and stuff. But like she's at a place where she can pick and choose who she wants for her culture, like we talked about last week. But I think, all teams are in a really great spot as far as numbers go, and now they can just continue to build that culture from within.
It's incredible on the women's side. I mean, we always talk about men's D1, men's D2. They've been phenomenal for years and years. On the women's side, it's incredible when I think back to like the prospects camp that we had, and I just came from a women's hockey camp meeting that we're going to have July 7, 8, and 9 here. and just the amount of skaters and how the sport has grown here, and just like, you know, the quality of girls that Arena's polling from all around the country. It's like, man, this is unreal. It's really exciting to see, just seeing the sport grow, and especially on the women's side here at Liberty.
Yeah, and since we're talking about women's D2, let's piggyback off that, because that's the team that, coming in on paper, probably your most seasoned team, and after making nationals last season and getting their first couple wins at nationals with returning so many key players and then bringing in a very talented class, like, you're expecting some big things from women's D2.
Yeah, I think I said it last week where I think they're going to make it to the Final Four next year. That's just kind of my bold prediction. I think building off of what they did this year, retaining 3 of those 6 seniors, and then bringing in a nice class to accent those girls. And then obviously the implementation of special teams for their team this year, like Coach Leon talked about. I think it's going to be a really special group.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see how it can't be, right? Or
Yeah.
at the very, very least, like, just be in the picture and keep contending.
Yeah, and now also, speaking of contenders, men's D2, we all know, I feel like they're still in that championship window, but I you could argue is it going to start closing after you transition another big group of key impactful guys for them? But I think they're in a very good place to compete again this year, and should be one of the favorites for men's Division 2.
I would hope so, right? And at the forward ranks,
Yes.
still very, very solid. Defensively, they're losing some bodies.
Yeah, that's
right?
the question mark, right?
Yeah. Fortunately, though, when you return Lane Scon, that's going to help, right? Like, when you could still have that netminder presence there. So if they could plug in some good bodies defensively, an extremely well-coached, disciplined team should get them back to where they want to be.
Yeah, talking with Coach Hughes and Coach Garland a little bit here and there throughout the summer, I think they're very content and excited about where they are, especially spiritually and in the locker room.
And culturally.
And so I think continuing to concentrate on that, I think, is just an amazing thing that they're doing. And then obviously these guys are gamers and they want to push their guys. But starting from the foundation, I think they're in a good spot. And I think, like you guys said, they're talented, and they're going to compete for that, at least a Final Four spot this upcoming season. It's just such a hard division to
It's the
to
hardest
win,
for sure.
right? And like, you can get a couple lucky breaks. Somebody else can get hot. Like last year, Iowa, like
Miami, Ohio, and Indiana.
yeah, and then 2 years ago, like 2 other kind of random teams made it all the way. So it's a really tricky one. You have to peak extremely well at that certain time of the season, and it's a grind.
And is there no auto bids this year, or is it next year?
There's been talk about this would be the last season of auto bids.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if that passes.
Yeah.
But haven't been officially confirmed yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that changes everything even more so. Right?
Yeah.
It makes it even harder now. Like, you have to go to regionals and you have to win those games there. It'll be interesting. See how that plays out.
Yeah, it seems a little bit like a waste, but again, it'll be interesting, like you said, to see how it plays out. I think the guys at that level are smart enough to give it a year or two, and if they think like this sucks, doesn't make any sense, everybody's losing money, and the same teams are going anyway, they might reintroduce it. But yeah, I mean, gets more eyes on the league, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. And last but not least, men's Division 3, who have consistently made the AAU national championship the last few seasons. And this is a team under Coach Wagner heading into year 2. He brought in a really big class, and with losing some key seniors, he'll probably bring in another big class too. But I think he's setting up a foundation for a team to make a huge AAU run during their junior and senior seasons.
I mean, you somewhat alluded to it, Fourth, where across a team, if you just establish and you have that kind of core group of, we're just going to work really hard and here's how we are as a team, whatever, it shouldn't matter who you're bringing in, because like, no one really wants to be the odd man out. Every now and then you're going to have a couple guys on the team that maybe don't mesh perfectly, but they still kind of buy in. And so, yeah, if Coach Wagner continued to build off of what he had, off of proven success by qualifying for nationals and you just, you have that core group that solely buy in and keeps kind of the culture of the team, should allow for a lot of success leading into this year.
Yeah, I love that, the buy-in thing. I think that's huge, right? Coach Lowe's came over to the women's side in 2017 and kind of established this culture, and the girls bought in.
Yep.
And they were successful for 5 seasons in a row. Not to say that they didn't buy in this past year. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But even at the men's D2 level, you see it and you hear it. And I mean, even on your side of things, I know your previous GA talked about, like, these guys are bought in.
Yeah,
Like one mission, one goal, and just to see them strive towards that on all these levels is amazing. So Coach Wagner continue to work with his team, and he was new last year, and so like you have to reestablish your culture, what you need as a coaching staff for that buy-in. It just takes time, unfortunately, but I think they're in a really good spot, and it's going to be exciting this year.
It better be, because I'm not wasting my time in the weight room with them.
New in sports performance.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it should be a very exciting season next year that I know we are all eagerly anticipating and waiting for. But thanks again for sitting down with us, guys, and I appreciate you guys, Kerr, all season being with us. Me asking you like the day before if you want to come in, and then you're like, yeah, I can.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in or listening, however you stream. But that'll do us for Rock the Rink this season, and we can't wait to get things rolling again this fall.